Welcome to Breaking Barriers with R&D, your direct line to Randy Dowdy and David Hula, here to help fellow farmers unlock the potential in their fields. Are you looking to implement best practices that maximize ROI? You've come to the right place. Real value, real yield, real ROI. Breaking Barriers with R&D starts now. Breaking Barriers is brought to you by Pioneer. When you compare Pioneer brand Vorseed Enlist corn to the competitor, Vorseed Enlist dominates in delivering yield. Your best year starts with Pioneer. And by BASF and Veltima fungicide. With the performance of Veltima fungicide from BASF, you can take your best results even further. And by Calmer Cornheads, home of the world's only all-weather stock roll. Learn more at calmercornheads.com. And by Durastack Trait Technology, the latest innovation from Syngenta. Available for the 2027 season, Durastack technology features 3 powerful modes of action to outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch corn rootworms every move.
Well, welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. It is my good pleasure to be with the R and the D part, Randy Dowdy. And, Randy, again, we got our premier sponsors, BASF and Pioneer, and I know Calmer Cornhead's a sponsor. And I'm excited about today in their second episode. We got your good friend, Drew Langley, and we're going to get a chance to visit with him. And he's in a special place as well, I think I hear. So I'm looking forward to the episode with you today, Dowdy.
Oh, yeah. It's my good pleasure, David, as always. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you've been a friend for a long time, and always value the conversations we have, whether it's via phone or doing this podcast together. And if you don't like David, you probably need to look in the mirror. It's just one of those things. You're a likable guy, and it's just one of them deals that, it's always a good pleasure to be a part of this, and I appreciate it. David, tell me what's going on in Virginia. It looks like the sun's finally shining based off your shirt there.
Yeah.
So tell me what's happening.
Well, since the last time we've had chances of rain, every day, and as far out as you can see, there's a chance of rain. And, in that you think, all right, you're going to get a shower. Well, yesterday, south of the James River got up to 5 inches of rain. We got 1.5 inches to 1 7/10 on most of our ground. But it's not just what happened. It's happening this week. A week and a half ago, we were extremely hot. I had to check my address. I know it says VA, but I thought maybe they changed it to GA for some reason. Because, man, we were hot, and I mean unbearably hot and humid. And I don't know if farmers have been walking fields. They're thinking they're getting plenty of rain, and, man, they're just going to knock out the crop out of the park. We got some pollination problems. I've walked a bunch of fields this past weekend to make sure I wanted the airplane to fly on certain fields. And if growers aren't checking, and I don't want to just say Virginia, but I know this is happening in the Mid-Atlantic area, the Carolinas. It's happening in Delaware and Maryland. I don't know how far out west it's going, but we're trying to keep the prices up by not having as good a crop, Dowdy.
Well, I understand, but you kind of like Georgia. I mean, y'all matter at a local level, but at a nationwide level, the amount of corn that's produced in Virginia is inconsequential, I would assume. But it matters for the people that planted the seed and trying to make a living off of it, for sure.
Yeah, I've been out west. I tell some people, I said, y'all spill more corn than the whole state of Virginia produces.
There you go. Well, David, you talk about pollination, and one of the things that we preach in Total Acres, spreading risk. Our version of calls and puts with the planter is spreading risk across varieties and spreading risks across populations. And you have done something for a long time that I've even adopted on my farm to some degree, is splitting the planter. When you walk those fields, I mean, I know I've heard you say before, you'll have relative maturity variance on one half of the planter versus the other half, so that you can spread out that pollination window. Now, people's heard me say plant multiple hybrids in a field, but you can do it in blocks. You take that to the next level, no pun intended. You try to do it with the planter itself. So if you're planting with a 16-row planter, you got 8 rows of, this variety, 8 rows of that variety. Pollen and drift 8 rows for sure. So what's your strategy been over the years, and what would you advise growers to think about when they plant in the future about spreading that risk with the planter?
Yeah, well, Dowdy, you're right. I mean, we have variable soil types, and you got some soil that's going to do much better than others, but we never know what kind of weather we're going to have. And being in a drought prone environment, 7-10 days from a drought because of our sandy soils, we take that 16 row planter, and I spend a lot of time in the winter trying to match CRMs, relative maturities, but I look at different flowering dates. And I know that some of the companies, their CRM models or numbers are a little different. So you got to take that into account. And if I'm using the same genetic package from the same company, we'll look for a 6-day uh, range of pollination. And then if I'm changing companies, then we just try to find when they're silking and come up with their best strategy. And but I want similar CRMs. I'll go as much as 2 CRM differences. The problem is if you get too far, now you're creating a problem with the dryer. But in that 16 row planter, Dowdy, I'll have 8 rows of one hybrid, 8 rows of another hybrid, go across the field. Traditionally, we've been split the planter in half. This year we did 3 hybrids in the planter, 1 through 4. Then we did 5 through, I guess it'd be 12, and then 13 through 16. So we got 8 rows by the time we make a round, 8 rows of the same hybrid with similar CRMs, but different flowering dates. And that's been helping spread risk out. And then when I go in the field like we did, and we're finding certain maturities or having pollination problems, I got other ones that aren't. That's, like you said, that's our calls and puts, but that's also mitigating risk. Because if I'd have had the same maturity range, I'd have had that whole problem across the whole field. And it goes with the same thing on lodging and standability. We're planting new hybrids. We don't know how well they're going to perform. So growers, splitting some risk out is a good management tool, and it's worked for us for years.
Well, you obviously don't have a central field planter where you only can put 2 seeds. You got, I guess, individual hoppers. So you got a lot of flexibility there. But when you did walk in the fields, now you said that you had some earlier when we spoke that, you had some pollination issues. Was that more monocrop of the same variety, maybe for some contest stuff, or was that on production ground, maybe where the CRMs didn't solve the variation, didn't solve the problem?
Yeah, the pollination problems have been pretty much certain um, maturity ranges or when it was flowering. I'm parked here in front of a 111 day and 113 day hybrid field and a pivot. You don't see pollination problems in there. Across the driveway, we have, and it goes from 114 to 117 day CRMs, and we have pollinations in those hybrids. So it's not one brand, it's just when the corn was actually pollinating. And it doesn't matter if it's irrigated or dry land. And we had one of the crop tours up in Pennsylvania last week, and a grower from Delaware brought some samples of corn, and he was experiencing the same thing. We saw last week a guy from Maryland brought some corn down, and I'm just seeing pictures. So it's not just Virginia. It's the Mid Atlantic states, and I don't know how far south it goes. We'll do stuff with growers in the Carolinas here soon, and then we'll get a sense on what's going on down there as well.
Well, David, I want to dive a little bit deeper in that. You say you look at different flowering dates. Are you looking at GDUs to flowering, and are you looking at separation there? And if so, how many GDUs would you want to see difference between the flowering dates? I don't know where you're getting this flowering date information, if it's just printed or if it's something you have access to. But if a guy's going to say, you know what, that's a good idea to mitigate some stress on production acres, I'm going to do that, or mitigate some risk, I'm going to do that. What should they be looking for? How many GDU separation between flowering do you covet?
Yeah, I mean, if I can get 50 to 75 GDUs, that's good, as long as CRMs are the same. And it's I've gotten very comfortable. I'm a Pioneer guy for the most part, and I've gotten extremely comfortable looking at their catalogs, and I have comfort there. And then you can look at the other brands and look at their catalogs to get an idea. But you also have to understand the differences between how they are recording their GDUs, because oftentimes when I look at the Pioneer genetics, that might be several CRMs difference with another one and have the same maturity or dry down time when it reaches that black layer. So 50, 75 GDUs is one way to look at it, but we also got to consider different companies, because one company might have 50, 75 GDU difference just between the companies, and it's in the CRM. So it can get confusing, but just do some splitting. Another easy way to do it is go out into a corn hybrid plot and look and see, because oftentimes, we might see 111-day hybrid pollinate like 113 or 108 day. So walk a corn hybrid trial when that starts to silken, and then take note. And that's one of the things we do in air trial. We'll take note and say, okay, this one, we started flowering on this earliest one, and then when they start flowering, that means you got to go out there. Dowdy, heaven forbid, go out in the field once or twice a day. That's a novel thought, or at least once a week.
What are you thinking, David? I mean, you're asking way too much there. That don't match the 4-4-44 mentality.
No.
Plant 4 weeks, harvest 4 weeks, and take 44 weeks off. So, no, we do have to be a student of the crop. And we do have to understand where yield is captured and where it's lost, and we have to do everything we can to take and mitigate that risk. And any way that we can take and spread our risk and to mitigate stress and to live to fight another day is a big deal. And I think we'll hear some of that about what's going on with Drew out on the second half of the segment. David, obviously you were in Canada last couple of days. What'd you see up there?
Yeah, well, all right, I had a chance to go up, and I was in Montreal Monday with some of the growers that are part of Total Acre. We had a great crowd. I mean, we had a lot of growers that wanted to come listen, see what was going on. And that's the cool thing about these crop tours that Total Acre is doing now. We're welcoming anybody to come to them. We like for them to, maybe call in and say they'll show up, because we're providing meals for them. But we had 30 some growers there, and the majority of them were non-members. We walked fields, we looked at corn, and we looked at soybeans. They have a much different soil than you and I have, Dowdy. They got 23 to 25 CECs. The corn crop was later than normal. They actually planted some soybeans on June 3rd because they were wet, couldn't get the crop in. And, they're a little bit worried on, is it going to finish? Patrick, one of the growers that's part of Total Acre, he's done a lot of checking boxes. He's not planting really thick. He's got that magic population that he's looking for in that upper 20s, and he had good spacing, good singulation, and he had good uniform emergence. Then we went to Justin's, another grower. Plants a little bit thicker. He's got a yield goal of 300 bushel. Last year he had some 270 some bushel, so it's not out of the realm. They're just a little bit behind. We saw, and one thing that I was surprised about, Dowdy, the amount of earthworm activity that was in that Montreal area. They had a lot of holes, a lot of roots penetrating into those earthworm holes, and I didn't see compaction. So that was another thing that I was pleased with. And, you know, saw some good beans, saw some later planted beans. You know, they're just now starting to bloom. So we were at that R1 stage, maybe beginning R2 on some of the first ones that Patrick had. And like I said, corn was just behind. And you know, they could use a drink of water. Some of the farms got water the evening before, just like here in Virginia. Some are getting it, some aren't. And but they need some heat too. And they're getting some. The one thing that I did see, we did was some of their smoke, and they were dealing with smoke on Monday, which kind of tempered the temperatures down, but yet they are losing sunlight. And I kind of kidded them. I said, "Is that your response to possibly the tariffs we have going on? You're sending smoke down to the United States to reduce their crop?" And they chuckled at that, Dowdy. They thought that was funny.
I hear you. Well, no doubt about it, David. There are some good growers up there, and they've been very loyal. The Total Acre guys. I mean, I've seen them at many camps coming to learn. We appreciate obviously their loyalty and their interest. And I know it sounds like you had some new people there, so maybe we can. Who knows? We might have a Total Acre camp in Canada before it's all said and done. But we do appreciate your business and hope they're listening out there. We're breaking barriers on the road this August to speak at the first ever Yield Academy in Rochester, Minnesota. We are looking forward to being a part of this, and hopefully you'll join us there.
Well, Dowdy, and during our session, we're going to ask some critical questions like, what yield did we leave on the table? And then, you know, we'll share some real examples of how growers have been pushing past their yield barriers with targeted seed, fertilizer, and some kind of management strategies that we've been working with through the Total Acre Group.
Well, David, this isn't theory. It's practical proven information based off my experience, your experience, the Total Acre experience. And we're looking for, you know, what can make a difference on your farm, and not just our farms, but the farms that we visit. Hopefully we'll get to talk to those producers. They'll come out and they'll see us. We'll give them some tidbits of information, but also the growers that are going to attend the Yield Academy. We're looking forward to that. If you register now, it includes a ticket to the final stop of Pro Farmer Tour, which is to hear the live results of what the bean counters and the kernel counters are telling us are based off yield, but also to be able to hear from me and David and other experts out there that we feel like that we're going to be able to talk about where yield's been left on the table.
Just scan the QR code on the screen or visit farmjournalyieldacademy.com and, you know, register today so you can lock in your seat.
David, obviously I'm in Michigan today, and it is dry and hot. I feel like I won't say I'm in South Georgia. It don't have the humidity, but it's 100% sunshine, and we've had copious amounts of it, but we need rain bad. I'd have bet money Wednesday. I spread some fertilizer on some fields this past week, and I said, man, this is going to be good. I'm going to hit a rain. It was coming across Lake Michigan. I said, this is going to be good. And there's some areas I don't have irrigated, so I really needed to get it incorporated. And unfortunately, we missed it. I mean, a lot of places got it, but we didn't get it here. And so it's hot here. We could use the rain. Harvest is right around the window in Georgia. It won't be long. You know, afternoon thunderstorms are still a threat every day, but the heat's maturing that crop fast, and there's southern rust in the area. You know, with it being in South Georgia, as it blows, the storms blow up, and if we get a tropical storm, it starts moving it from North Florida to South Georgia. I guarantee you it's coming into Tennessee and the Carolinas, and it's going to move up in the Mid-South. So guys need to be very cognizant of southern rust. It's in Georgia. It's all over Georgia, and they need to be very proactive. A lot of my Kentucky friends have said that some of their best yields have come where they sprayed earlier than tassel. I know a lot of people out there is past that, so they really need to consider a fungicide, especially considering that, you know, we definitely need, you know, we've seen 60 bushel loss, and there's a lot of people out there in the scientific community that feels like, you know, fungicides are, you know, at best 50-50 shot. David, I don't know how they make these high yields with the disease pressure that we have and the plant health benefits we need from high nighttime temperatures and all that we get out of the fungicides. So I don't know where they farm or they don't need them, but I can assure you, me and you have definitely seen the benefits of using, BASF, Veltima, Preaxle, or Headline Amp over the years, and then Revitec on the beans. We get a lot of adverse conditions.
Well, you're mentioning the southern rust. I got a text. Last week I was in Pennsylvania with Josiah, who was on the podcast before, and he sent a text saying that they're seeing a lot of tar spot coming in right now, and they've had some moisture. They're obviously getting some of the temperatures, and it's just earlier than they normally have had. They're not exempt from tar spot, but he just made comment on how fast it's coming and how early. So I think with the moisture that the country's getting in parts, they really need to be proactive on that. And if, just like I know we'll hear later on, what are things that growers need to be looking for? And they really need to be thinking about fungicides. Even in this downturn economy on ag, they got to protect what they have, because if they let it go away, it's a tough thing. And last week, Matt Crabb was on, my crop duster aerial applicator was on, and he finished spraying for us yesterday. And Dowdy, he wanted me to be sure to tell you something. It all worked out just perfect. The amount of acres he did and the product worked out perfect for him.
I understand. I say that in jest, but it always just works out perfect. And anybody that's wondering where the backside of that is, was it last week we did that? 2 weeks ago we did our podcast, last episode, and I asked the question. So if you haven't listened to it, you may want to listen to our last episode. I asked the question. We had an aerial guy, and I said, you know what? I said, I need you to explain something to me. I want to put you on the spot. I said, every time the co-op comes out, somebody does some spraying for me or spreading fertilizer or even the crop duster, I always ask the question, how did it work out? I mean, did you have enough fertilizer? Did you have enough chemical? Did you have enough of everything you needed? Because there's been many times, David, Randy Dowdy has spread with a spreader of his own. Randy Dowdy has spread or sprayed fields and not have enough to finish. And, I know the acreage. I know how much product I put in there. I know how many gallons I put in there. I know how I calibrated it. But, David, it always just don't work out right. And I've never seen an airplane come back and spray 5 acres because they run out, ever. So, and I've never seen the co-op go back and get 300 pounds or 500 pounds to finish up. It always just worked. Yeah, it's just right. Worked out good. So I guess that's the back. And I appreciate his candor and his humor for that. But, obviously you've checked him to make sure he's doing you a good job. And that's good. I'm glad your fields are getting some rain. I'm unhappy that you had some pollination issues, but it is farming for sure. And, we do all we can to make yield. And when you get thrown a curveball called Mother Nature that you can't control, it is frustrating, but you're doing all you can to mitigate stress and mitigate risk. And that's all we can do. We got to understand where yield is captured and where it's lost, control those controllables, and spread risk. And I appreciate you doing that. And I think the listeners, if they would adhere to that, they'll make money long term for sure by implementing those strategies. David, we've got a great guy coming on in the next episode, or the next half of the episode, Drew Langley. He's from Kentucky. He's been a part of Total Acre for a long time, and he's in DC, I believe. So we might get to see him with not a farm attire, but maybe a little dressed up. But Drew's a good guy. I go way back with Drew and that group. Really proud to have him be a part of the show today. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what he's doing in DC and to hear what he's got going on the farm, because you and I are scheduled to be in Kentucky next week. And man, we got some really good growers there. The Driscolls, I won't name all the names, but there's a pile of folks out there that do a really good job. And I'm looking forward to spending time with you. I think I pick up something every time we're together. And iron sharpens iron, and I look forward to spending time with you there next week. So if you're watching and you want to come out to our Total Acre tour, you can go to totalacre.com. You'll see where we're going next week in Kentucky. I think we're pretty much staying in Kentucky. Is that right, David?
Yeah, we'll be all around that Louisville area, and it's going to be good to. It's not often that you and I are together during these crop tours, so this is good. It's great for the growers, and everybody gets a chance to see your shadow, see how your shadow overshadows my shadow.
I get it, and as long as I can be in the field with you, I think I can ask the right questions to try to learn something. But no doubt about it, the growers, I think, benefit from having the two of us. You're the good cop, and I'm the bad cop sometimes, but I do my best to stimulate growers to think differently and ask the right questions. So it'll be fun for sure. David, anything else before we go see Drew?
No, I'm just, it's always a pleasure to be in any part of the episode with you there, Dowdy.
Good deal, man. I appreciate it, and be safe. We'll see you shortly. It looks like are you getting ready to spray, or are you doing anything right now, or are you just too wet from being with the recent rainfall?
Yeah, we're a little wet because we got 1.5 inches of rain, so we're not doing anything in the field today. I'm just getting back from Montreal, trying to get caught up in the paperwork, and just caught me in a pickup right now.
Hey, did you get all your beans planted behind wheat harvest and small grain harvest?
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did. And, we got a good stand. So we're pleased there. Now, the biggest thing is we got to keep the deer out. I know you're all about deer up in Michigan. They could all die as far as I'm concerned. So,
how are the deer repellent products working? I know you've been vetting 2 or 3 different ones. Is there anything there that you can see yet?
With that is good that you brought it up. There's that product called MPPEDE from Groman, Goman, G-O-M-A-N.
Is it Gowan?
Yeah, Gowan, G-O-W-M-A-N. We have tried that. We applied some on our farm at Jamestown, and if I got deer pressure, it's that place. The deer don't eat the edges of the field. They go in the middle of the field and work their way towards the edges because there's people on the bike trail. I sprayed it. A week later, I went back there. I saw 3 deer in the field. They were just bedded down, and I didn't see any damage. We did some at home at one of our farms, and a lot of deer. I'm not seeing damage now. I'm not endorsing the product by any means. This is the first year we looked at it, but I'm pretty pleased with what we're seeing now. We've done the hot sauce. That works great when we don't get new growth or you don't get a rain event, as long as that hot sauce is on there. This is something that's doing a little different. So the first good. So we'll see how things go the rest of the season and see how long it does last, because we've been getting a few showers now.
Well, David, I can tell you about being in the deer business. We have fawns that we bottle raise, and one of the biggest things that we have a problem with is when 2 fawns are together, they have a tendency to lick one another's butt, and that's just the way it is. Well, that mimics what their mother would do in the wild, and when that mother is nursing that fawn, she licks that fawn's butt, and that's how that fawn knows how to pee and poop. So when there's another fawn licking another fawn's butt and they start to pee or poop, they drink the pee, and we call them pee suckers. So we have tried about everything you can imagine. We've tried hot sauce. We've tried, everything you can imagine, spraying on their butt, on the hair, to try to keep them from wanting to lick it. We've tried yuck spray. We've not found a foolproof remedy. So I'm kind of surprised that you say that spraying, hot sauce out there has actually worked, because in the deer world, we spray it on, and I promise you, it has not deterred one of them.
Well, it sure makes them not want to eat those soybeans.
Really? So, good deal. All right. Well, coming up on the next half of the episode, we'll have Drew Langley, and we look forward to hear what he's got going on in Kentucky and in DC.
Veltima fungicide outyields the competition by an average of 7 bushels per acre. But you've never been average. The only competition that really matters is you versus you. And with the performance of Veltima fungicide from BASF, you can take your best results even further. Beat your own record. Get every bushel you deserve. And make this your best season yet with Veltima fungicide from BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
With corn rootworm costing farmers up to $1 billion a year, you need the right strategy. Introducing Durastack trait technology, featuring 3 powerful modes of action to strike corn rootworm at full force. Outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch their every move with the industry's first triple BT protein stack built for corn rootworm control. Take back your yield potential. Make your move at Durastack.com. Available for the 2027 season.
Farmers, let's talk Pioneer brand Vorseed Enlist corn.
Yes, Coach!
Wow, love the energy. Okay, it clobbers corn rootworms and weeds for higher yields.
Yes, Coach!
And Vorseed Enlist delivers next-generation corn rootworm protection.
Yes, Coach!
Plus powerful exclusive genetics and flexibility to manage tough weeds.
Yes, Coach!
Now get out there and
grow!
I guess being a Pioneer agronomist is like being a coach.
Start your best year yet at pioneer.com/rootworm.
Calmar Cornheads produces the world's only all-weather stalk rolls. The BT chopper's deep intermeshing, razor-sharp blades not only cut and chop corn stalks into confetti-like pieces, but also shear stalks into 2 halves, exposing the pith. This results in accelerated residue decomposition, easier planting, and higher yields. Call Calmar Cornheads today to upgrade your cornhead with the BT Chopper Stalk Roll at 309-629-9000 or visit us online at calmarcornheads.com.
As mentioned previously, we've got a great guest that's going to join us shortly. His name's Drew Langley. Drew, it's our good pleasure to have you here today. I hear you're not in Georgia or in Kentucky, but you're in Washington, D.C., so that's not too far from David. If I slip you enough cash, it probably ain't about an hour and a 10-minute drive. Go into David's field and either take some plants out or take some tissue samples or something for me and send them to us. You think you can do that?
We can certainly make it over there.
Yeah, wait a minute. I don't want him to be cutting yield because I can't give up any this year. We've been struggling now.
Every time Easton sees an airplane, private or otherwise, or a helicopter flying over the farm, he said, "Daddy, I wonder who that is." I said, "Probably somebody David Hula's got spying on." And I've been saying that since he was very little. So now we'll see somebody strange on a dirt road. He'll say, "I wonder if they're here to go check out for David Hula what we got going on." So we've had fun with it.
Yeah, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, you had somebody riding a 4-wheeler in, and I told him it was one of my guys, but he wasn't smart enough to get away.
That's right. He wasn't very. His stealth skills were not very good. Let's put it that way. He was a little too overt. But Drew, how long you been part of Total Acre now?
Golly, I started, I think was it 2018? I'm not for sure. I didn't start in Kentucky. If you remember, I drove that first year to Ohio just to see your pretty face. That's been a while.
Right, and it ain't got nothing but prettier ever since.
That's exactly.
But yeah, I know you've been a part of this for a long time, close to its inception, and we've developed a friendship as well. And Drew, I understand you're normally not just dressed up, so you got your dress clothes on. Where are you?
Well, today I'm not on the farm. We have taken the farm to Congress, to Washington, D.C. I'm with the Kentucky Soybean Association today, and tomorrow we'll have some meetings. We'll meet with our congressman from Kentucky as House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell, some of those guys. We'll share some of our concerns on the farm bill. We'll take some of the things that matter to us as a soybean grower. We'll talk as far as farm bill goes. We'll talk about the importance of crop insurance, reference prices, updates of that, and we'll go over a list of issues that we feel are important to represent the farmer back home, and hopefully keep that on the radar of those congressmen.
Have they give you? Have you met with anybody yet, or is that forthcoming?
No, we'll meet with them tomorrow.
Have they given you any information about a farm bill and its timeline?
You know, I think if I was a betting man, I think when we get in their offices, they'll say, "We hear you. We understand the need for a farm bill, and I think that can's going to get kicked down the road, and they'll probably do an extension, and they'll worry about it here in another 6 months or a year." But we'll see. Well, it'll be interesting to see if there's any progress on that. I know, you know, with Trump wanting that big beautiful bill passed, and there hasn't been I think there's been focuses that are not around the farm bill here for a while.
Well, and I know, Drew, I know you're there just for the soybean side, but the cool thing about y'all is, you know, you grow wheat, you grow corn, so you're representing more than just the soybean side.
Sure, we're with the Soybean Association, but yeah, we're representing the farmer in general. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what is, you know, I know doing the crop tours, you know, you get a sense of what the people are feeling in those particular states. And I was in Canada yesterday, over there in Montreal, but Kentucky, I imagine, is the same way. We're all just worried about input prices, and not only are we worried about 2025, but guys are looking at 26 and they're not seeing any relief because the prices aren't there. So I know that's some of the things you're talking when you're talking to your legislators about. It's not just now, it's about the future and the sustainability of what we got going on.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, yeah, margins are so tight right now, as everyone knows. And, you know, and I'm going to be a little bit more conservative than most and say we don't need all these welfares and handouts, but obviously we need crop insurance. It's a vital part of our business to have for some risk management and to update some of those reference prices on base acres and some of that. I think there are some important programs that need to stay in place and make sure the American farmer can be profitable.
With Drew, you mentioned insurance and reference prices. I mean, obviously everybody goes there with an agenda of hoping to get something. Obviously you mentioned that they're probably going to kick the can down the road, but if you were king for a day, Langley Farms, what's the number one thing that you think, if you could get it legislation applied or passed or anything else, what do you think that would be that could help you the most in your operation?
From a personal standpoint, and to say that I understand we have a country to save at the exact same time. I don't need more handouts. But I would like to keep crop insurance. The subsidies that are available with crop insurance, that's probably that safety net there. If you can say, hey, we need this safety net of crop insurance. Obviously, crop insurance is heavily subsidized. I think with margins so tight, that's one of the most important things to make sure that it stays or is updated to a very attractive level in the farm bill. I'm fine if all these other programs that are thrown around maybe aren't at the top of the list, but crop insurance and maintaining that program, I think, would be at the top of my list.
And I'll tell you, Drew, from a guy that lives, like David likes to say, where we get named storms,
right,
tropical storms, hurricanes, man, you know, it's not easy to farm in the deep South just with every afternoon thunderstorm chance. I think David's getting a taste of that now in Virginia, of it raining every day or a threat of it every day and cloudy days and all that and the heat. But when there's a hurricane and there's a tropical storm and you get straight line winds and you get all the problems associated with that, I always bought up 80 to 85% crop protection, you know, revenue protection, and I would even treat each farm as an individual. I didn't even enterprise it. And okay. I did that simply because it helped me sleep at night, because we've had hurricanes go across Valdosta 20 miles away and the wind difference be 60, 70 miles an hour difference. You know, we did farm a very, diverse area and different soil types, but we would be 60, 70 miles one direction sometimes to go and farm. And that wasn't ideal, but, I do get what you're saying. Having some insurance that's affordable is a peace of mind, especially with the input costs that we have. They're not going down. The commodity prices aren't reflecting the rate of inflation of everything else. So it's a big deal. And I would concur that that's a big deal on the insurance, having it where we can afford it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think 99% of us producers, we want to be at a profitable margin with good yields and never have to worry about any kind of program. But the crop insurance and having some safety net there is a really big deal.
And there are some insurance farmers out there. We know them.
Sure,
but that's the way most farmers are not that I know of. I mean, we want to make a fair living, an honest living, and we just want it to where we can. The weather's part of it that we can't control, but when the weather takes it from us, having a safety net that helps service debt, to help keep us in business, to farm another year, that's a big deal. And David, what do you do in Virginia? How do you mitigate risk with crop insurance?
Well, it doesn't bother me because everything I get's free. Don't you remember, Dowdy? So my cost of production is a whole lot less than most others. That's what you keep telling me, Dowdy. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad we finally got it recorded for video and audio evidence.
Yeah. Well, we know I still write John Deere checks, and you say, "Oh yeah, they just void them though, so it don't matter." But no, I'm writing checks just like everybody else, and like you said, Dowdy, I've been in Drew's position 20 plus years ago. Went out there and worked with the congressman. Had chances to visit with some in the state of Virginia as well as outside. And one of the bigger struggles that Drew's dealing with is people are that much further removed from ag. They don't really understand the value of it all. So not only are they having to pitch their idea of the value of the importance of crop insurance, but sometimes you just got to explain to them what the crop insurance is doing for them. And that's what we do at Wrenwood. I'm in the same camp Drew is from a standpoint. We participate in some of the programs that are out there, but crop insurance, I do not ever remember Wrenwood Farms putting a crop in the ground without having crop insurance. And that started in the early 80s. And before some of it was even subsidized, because just like you do, Dowdy, we farm in a high risk environment. Some years we can have a knockout crop. Some years that it's just been a total failure, whether it's hurricane or drought. And Drew's in the same boat. It's not like he's always guaranteed to have a great crop. Whereas you get out in the Midwest, they're going to do a lot better because they have a little different soil. So crop insurance now, we do break it out. We do enterprise, but just to try to keep some of the premium down, but we max out though, Dowdy. So I try to capture everything. And, I guess we are in Hurricane Alley, but we don't deal with it quite as significant as you did in Georgia. I mean, if we're going to get wiped out, it's going to wipe out at least half our operation. It's not like it's going to hit one county. But every year is different. So we don't plan it without crop insurance.
Yep. Well, thank you, Drew, for going up there. We do appreciate it. I mean, it is a commitment of time and effort. And so I know farmers out there appreciate the fact that their constituents, colleagues, and everything that's actually going up there and not hoping that the congressmen understand what we need, but actually are taking the time to voice it face to face. And I've been up there with the Corn Commission and, in Georgia, different, entities before lobbying as well. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, and I enjoy it too. I like history. I like following politics a little bit, and just being around here and seeing some history. I think it's neat too.
I know one way you can follow politics is just jump right in and do it yourself. So
well, I don't think I have time for that.
Okay. I hear you.
I think we'll keep planting corn.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, we are headed your way next week. I think we're actually going to your farm. We're going to be doing the Kentucky tour. The first leg of the Kentucky tour, David went to the Delta this past, I guess, June, end of May, 1st of June. And you went out there and saw one of our producers out there, Preston, some of his acreage, and it was very wet, if I remember correctly, David, and they just had wet feet. What's Tennessee and Kentucky looking like, and what will we see in your neck of the woods? I know part of the reason why we didn't go to Kentucky, we've got a lot of members from the Delta and Tennessee that's in the Kentucky camp, so we chose to go there on the first leg. But I think there was a late planting. Maybe there was some weather issues early, maybe with planting parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. Kind of catch us up to speed. What are we going to see? What's the pulse in Tennessee, the Kentucky camp?
Yeah, so locally I'm central Kentucky. I'm about an hour south of Louisville. I started planting beans March 26th, 27th into absolutely perfect conditions. They were but the day we started planting beans, they were calling for 5-6 inches of rain. I thought, you know what, we're going to have some basins, some small 1-2 acre basins. We'll probably have to replant if we do get 5 or 6 inches. But obviously we know the importance of planting date. And so we thought we'd go ahead and roll. We started rolling, and instead of getting 5 or 6 inches, we ended up with 16 inches. And so we planted a little bit more than the 1 or 2 acre basins. They turned into 30 and 40 acre basins pretty quickly. But, we'll next week when y'all get here, we'll go to some of those beans that were planted in front of that 16-inch rain. I replanted obviously the basins that drowned out, but I didn't replant any of those other beans. They're absolutely loaded. They're dry as a bone. We're praying for rain pretty hard right now. We need a rain bad, but those are loaded. They look really, really good. So I'm optimistic. If we can catch a rain, I'm really optimistic. We've got a good looking crop. Corn. Even with all that rain, we still got a decent amount planted in late April and early May. So overall, we look decent. We're really, really dry. We got to catch some rain here. Things are going to go backwards quick. I tell guys they were talking about the 16 inches of rain in April, and they say, "Golly, you got the soil profile loaded." I'm not in Georgia sand, but I tell guys, I said we're always 10 days away from a drought, no matter how much rain we've had. And here we are, middle of July, and we're certainly looking. You can tell we're in that drought stage now.
Well, there's one thing about it, David. You probably gonna remember this. I remember going out to the farm, and Drew's daddy was a never tiller for a long period of time. And I know that used to be in your wheelhouse, David, but I remember going to Drew's farm one day, and this is way back. And I remember going out there, and I really didn't have anything I could say about a planter. And I really didn't have anything I could say about how well he had done with the planter. Drew, I've given you kudos for many years about that other planter you used to run. Was it a Kinsey?
And it's still, we reaped beans with it this year. That's what we did with it.
I think you planted really slow, and you understood that you didn't have the most state-of-the-art technology-based planter. But David, I can assure you, Randy Dowdy would have took those fields any day of the week on his, based off of how he had performed with that planter. So he understood how the planter, what it took to make it perform. And you've been that example. Now you have embraced technology since then, and you have purchased alternate planters. Do you feel like you have them performing as good as they did? And I'm going to be the guy that goes back out there and looks at it next week. And I'm going to want to see if that first box was checked. I know you've asked me several times, Randy, I think I got the stand that I need to be able to push for yields. What do I need to do? Above and beyond, what do I need to do? And I've shared some things along the way, some things you probably should do to try to push it. Did you check the first box? Yes or no?
Well, most areas in most situations where I'm going to take you, you're going to see some issues and you're going to say, what in the world, Drew Langley? You're going to say, I don't like this. Well, it goes back to the never till situation. I planted some wheat and some rye and a bunch of crimson clover and some vetch underneath that pivot. And I thought I would kill it when it was really little, and it goes back to we got 16 inches of rain, and I couldn't get it sprayed, so it got a lot bigger than I wanted it to. And planting into that, it planted great, but it didn't close quite as well as I wanted to. And then, so anyway, there was a tiny few issues in some certain spots that were pretty much all because of that cover crop. But I wouldn't trade that cover crop for anything either. So hopefully in a couple of areas we give up 2 bushels to gain a bunch of soil health is our hope. But overall it looks pretty good.
Have you embraced the drone yet?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I guess this will be my 3rd year with the drone, and we didn't use it to burn it. I thought about going out there and burning the cover crop down.
That's where I'm headed with it. If you couldn't stand up, did you think about burning down with it? Because I've heard some guys having some pretty good success of using the drone.
I did think about it, but part of me wanted to let that stuff get a little bit bigger and just see if I thought, well, what's it going to hurt? It's just going to be more organic matter out there. And so part of me wanted to let it get a little bit bigger, and so that I let it get bigger.
I got you.
So Dowdy, he just needs to be able to take that drone and just make little strips for the corn planter. There you go.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Or get him a soul warrior and make him some strips out there and help manage that residue with the strip till rig. I went through some pretty big cover crops with that soul warrior, man. And I'm like you, I wouldn't give up my cover crops. Number one, to hold the world together, but just because of the biology and the soil health piece of it. But it will help you manage some of that residue going forward, so that the planter don't have to do it all.
Yeah, but that's tillage, Dowdy. Some people do.
And I don't know that the battle's as much with Drew as it is with Daddy. So make sure you got your Daddy there. I'll wear on him as much as I can. I'll push him as hard as I can to put some steel on some of these.
I'll see it. Yeah, he went on an Alaskan cruise. I'll see if he'll be back in time.
I got you. One thing that we saw there, and it's like you say, no-till is great as long as there's not other issues that go along with it. And some of that might be planting issues, but if I remember correctly, we had a little bit of compaction issues there. Didn't we run a soil penetrometer there?
Yeah, we did.
And I even got put it in Daddy's hand. And I said, all right, Daddy, 300 foot-pounds now. You tell me when it hits it. Do you remember that?
I do.
Did I help him? Did I help your cause any, or that still fell on deaf ears?
I think not in a tillage situation, but if we can use let cover crops be our tillage and try to get more root growth. And we've tried annual ryegrass, thinking we could get more root growth out of annual ryegrass versus cereal and some of that. Annual ryegrass is a nightmare when it gets away from you and you can't kill it. So we've learned that the hard way too. But it gets your attention that we got to have soil health and tilth and try to break it up one way or another.
So you mentioned cereals and you mentioned some clovers and probably some vetches maybe, but have you done those like tillage radishes or any of that to help where that tap goes down?
Yeah, and I played, especially like I like doing it if you grow some in our neck of the woods, if you grow some say group 3 beans that are going to cut 10th, 15th of September, you get a lot of growth on whatever you sow. And we don't work it in. We don't do anything. We just go out there with a spreader and spread all that right on top of that residue, right behind the combine. And long as you get any kind of rainfall, we've had really good stands behind doing it that way. And if we, especially on the early September stuff, we'll throw some of those tillage radishes in there, and they get really good growth. And I don't know how you put a measurement value on the good you're getting out of them, but as far as just visually getting growth out of them, they've done really well.
I attended one of the camps, and I just don't have the same memory Dowdy has, but there was one grower in particular. They were planting their cover crops with the combine, and there's some guys here in Charles City, Aaron Black and his brother. They also invented a machine to put on the combine, or designed and developed a machine to where they could broadcast cover crop, and it's going out right before the residue hits the ground, like cutting soybeans. So they're using the residue to cover it. You're just spinning on top. Have you even thought about doing something with the combine?
Well, I've looked at those. I looked at some of those guys that had some stuff mounted on corn heads and mounted on their heads. So they're spreading it, before the residue gets over it. And we've just had such really good luck.
Sure.
With the spray. We'll just go out there and we might mix some couple 100 pounds of potash or something with all that seed and just spread it after the combine goes through. And in our neck of the woods, we usually get some rainfalls in the fall, and we've had beautiful stands. So until we don't get a stand, then we'll probably go back and punt. But the way it's working right now, I wouldn't want to have to rig up anything different.
Well, the old saying, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So not like you got a program. Now, outside of, you're talking about soil health. Are you doing any way to measure it? What are you doing? Are you cutting back your fertilizer? Because, you're up in DC, water quality, maybe not as big a focus as it has been in the past. But what other benefits other than helping on moisture are you getting from your cover crops?
We roll a little bit, so obviously erosion control is a huge deal for us. So just keeping we've got some places in the low basins, we'll have a foot or two of topsoil, and most places we got 4 inches of topsoil if we're lucky. So we have got to keep our topsoil where it needs to be and don't let it wash away. That's really the main thing that got us started on the cover crops. But we're not doing a lot differently. I'm still spreading. We've cut pea back a little bit, I would say, but I don't know if that's because of yields and what we're doing that way. But we're still spreading a lot of potash. We still spread a lot of fertilizer. I don't think we've attributed cutting back fertilizer to cover crops yet, like I've heard some guys can do.
Well, so Dowdy says he said that your dad was part of Never Till. So that's something that we talk about over here until we still got some ground that we won't till because it's been that long. So how long have y'all been in a true continuous no-till program?
My dad started farming in 78, and he was doing tillage when he started. But I would say he quit doing tillage in 82, 83, probably somewhere in there. And so everything's been continuous no-till. So that's what, 40, over 40 years, yeah.
Yeah, so you got us beat by a couple of years because we started in the fall of '86. I remember the time my dad and I went to Virginia Tech, Land Grant University, and talked to those folks about no-tilling wheat and the corn stalks, Drew. And they're like, it won't work. And, he wanted to know why. And they talked about scab. And, we all understand vomitoxin and scab. And they said that it was going to be a problem. And my dad asked him, what would be the frequency of it happening? Because, everything's a risk versus reward. And they said 1 out of 8 years, it would be detrimental. And he leaned back and crossed his arms and said, does Virginia Tech still promote raising corn in the state of Virginia? And I looked at him and I didn't know where he was going with that. And they said, of course. And, back in the early 80s, we were having drought after drought. And he said, we'll have a drought 2 out of 5 years. So 1 out of 8 years is a much better odd than 2 out of 5. And so we started, he bought a 7-foot Littleton drill. We picked a field that was 67 acres in size. That was 3 miles to the east down a dirt road. And he was committed to it. If it worked, great. If it didn't work, he was going to stick with it, but we didn't have to look at it every day. And that was when it really started in Virginia, the whole never till 3-crop rotation. So I applaud your dad because, he was a pioneer back then.
Well, and, I think Randy always talks about aha moments. I think some of the biggest aha moments we've had in the farm world and not necessarily, but this, I guess I could say I was going to say with cover crops, I don't know, but our biggest aha moments have come when we've no-tilled corn or beans into those sod fields that have never had tillage done. Those are still, to this day, our highest yielding producing farms, are those farms that were in sod, in those cattle. No matter how rolling they are, those are our highest yield. And so that tells you those living roots, that ground always had a living root. That soil is healthy, organic matter is higher. And so those are those aha moments. We've got to replicate this to the best we can.
Yeah, and I hear Dowdy, and I'm surprised he hasn't said it yet. But the only time he doesn't have something living is when he's planting or harvesting in Georgia. So
About 300 days a year, we got something growing.
yeah,
That's for sure. Well, Drew, we're gonna be in your place next week, Lord willing. We'll get to see some of your farms and some of the other people's. I would be remiss to ask if you were listening. Obviously, you've been a part of Total Acre for a long time, and you've stuck with us, and we appreciate that more than you know. Appreciate the friendship we've developed over the years, but appreciate your business. And with that being the case, I'd be remiss to ask you, you got the king of corn, where everybody is sitting here waiting. What is Drew going to ask David that they might be able to take and pick something up and take to their farm and try to do something maybe a little bit more? So I'm going to put David on the spot. You see David over there smiling like, what is Dowdy doing? Hey, what would be something that you think that either you can tell the grower out there that they could benefit from, or that maybe you want to ask David that, let's put him on the spot. Let's put him in the hot seat. You've always heard me say he'll answer any question. You just got to ask the right question.
Got to ask the right question. That's right.
Now's your time.
You put me on the spot. Let's go to, all right, let's think of it this way, David, for people. Margins are super tight. We're dry. We always talk about 10 bushels per thousand, okay? In production corn, I'm going to say I planted 99% of my corn 26 to 28. Because if I say, hey, 260 to 280, that's where I want to be on a good year, I will take that all day long. I don't know too many people that won't, right? How in a drought situation in some of this, like, and it's on my mind because we're so dry right now, how low should we go?
Yeah. All right. Well, it's just coincidental. BASF is one of our premier sponsors on Breaking Barriers with R&D. And I'm not saying this because it's BASF. If I were, and we're doing this in our same, we did it last year. We've done it for years and years. If we have enough corn, and for us, 150 bushel crop, we can generate enough revenue with a fungicide application. And we'll see that we might not pick up more rows around, but we'll pick up better plant health. And what it'll do, it'll allow that crop to survive longer, to wait for that rain. And the best example I can give you was 2012. We were great crop till about the 1st of July, and then it did not rain for extended period of time. And we were the only ones that sprayed a fungicide on our crop. The crop duster, Matt Crabb, that we had on the podcast last week. No, it was Gene Critter. Sorry about that. He flew for us. And he was surprised that we were flying, and it kept our crop alive about 2.5 weeks longer than anybody else, counting on a rain. Well, Drew, it didn't rain, so it didn't matter. All I did was help crop insurance because I didn't have they'd have to write as big a check. But today, I still have that same mentality. I am not going to raise a crop without a fungicide put on late. And then, of course, I look at insects, and you're in an insecticide or an insect environment as well. Then we got to make sure we can keep those kernels. So whether we do a little bit of boron, a lot of boron, that would be my standard program. And that's something that we do even if we're in a droughty area. If we hadn't had like green snap and the corn's just down on the ground, Drew, because I know you've done a good job managing the fertility side. You've checked that box, and I would trust most growers have. But we just want to finish that crop off. We just want to give it a chance to make whatever yield we can get. So let's keep it alive and green a little longer. Are there other chemistries? Maybe so, but I've hung my hat with BASF, and it keeps it green. And I'm not sure if you got a drone. So the thing to do is, Coach, if you're on that fence you don't know, spray part of your farm with it, part of your farm or a field without it, and then you plan for the next year, because you'll have another year like this. You're too young not to have another year like this at some point in time.
And I'll say this too, Drew. Number one, I mentioned the planter. That 10 bushels a thousand, you still got to have Mother Nature's help, especially it sounds like it's a non-irrigated environment. But I mean, I planted 28,000 where we had water, and we've harvested some plots out there with the university and made 12 bushels a thousand. So that's possible.
Yeah.
But every plant's got to come up at the same time. So have you checked the box on germination depth versus planting depth, or are you truly getting a 2-inch germination depth?
Well, yes, but we have, as you brought attention to that over the last year or so, we've had to go deeper to in certain situations to get that germination depth you're talking about. Yeah, planting 2 inches doesn't mean we're gonna have 2-inch germination depth for sure. That's
a fact, and I mean that's part of it. So, you started off the question, the 10 bushels a thousand, and what to do in a dry year. If the rain kicks in, I mean, I think that you can feasibly make more than 10 bushels a thousand. But which would you feel better about today? Having planted 34 or 36,000 plants out there, or having 26 out there?
Oh,
with the drought conditions you're having today, just say that they were equally emerged equally as well at 34 versus 26. Considering it's no-till, or excuse me, non-irrigated, which would you rather have today? 26,000 plants out here or 36,000?
I would take 26,000, 10 out of 10 years, even regardless of rainfall, because where I've learned a little bit of this is through irrigation. Hey, my 28, 29 has almost always out yielded my 33, 34, 35. And you know what? I know it's not the water, so it has to go to sunlight and other factors. So regardless of drought or not, give me 26,000 every year.
The seed companies love it. They appreciate the heck out of it. But you're exactly right. And I've told you, don't lose the ability to get plants up at the same time. And you've been the benchmark for I've referenced many conversations of how you've done a really good job in being OCD and anal retentive. And I think we'll see that next week. I think you're being modest. But we all have challenges on everybody's farm, so that's for sure. But look forward to seeing it next week. But, you can't give up on a crop. David, he said, I sprayed it to stay green for a week and a half, hoping we'd get a rain, 2 weeks and a half, whatever length that time was. And then we were hoping we'd get a rain, and then you don't get it, and you up the insurance. Well, there's none of this about farming that's a guarantee. We are the eternal optimists, and we are the eternal hopers. It's just the way it is. And, hopefully the weather will change. I saw where there was people talking about a flood watch in Kentucky. I mean, I saw that on the Weather Channel this morning. Is that other parts of Kentucky? Because I saw this morning where they said there were places under a flood watch.
Yeah, they've had 50% pop-up chances every day for the last 10 days. And so if somebody's getting that pop-up every day, I guess they are getting some moisture where we just haven't been in that pop-up spot.
You got to pay a little more in tithes than offering plate.
Well, we certainly trust in the Lord.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, if it hadn't rained next week, we'll do like we've done in North Dakota, and we'll do like we did in Iowa, and we'll do like we've done all over the Midwest. We'll gather hands and we'll pray. And we've done it enough times where people have been distraught, needed to service debt, and we have touched God, and the rain has come, and that's been a big deal. And we believe in prayer, Drew. And
absolutely,
next week, I'm gonna pray before then that you'll get the rain that you need. No wind, no hail, no lightning.
There you go. And sunshine.
And sunshine in the middle of the day. Let it rain at night, nice and slow, right? And then we'll gather hands next week. We'll see if we can't touch Jesus on you guys' behalf. It rains on the just and the unjust. So we got to figure out which camp we're in, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
It's our good pleasure to have you, Drew. It's always good to see you. You tell Nick and all that crew that we said hello, Mr. I'm drawing a blank.
We'll get Scott down there. Scott will show
Scott
up.
Evil Hair. Is it Evil Hair or Evil Har? I always get it wrong.
I always call him Hair. I think it's Evil Hair.
Get Scott and get both Scotts there. There's two of them in that
there's
camp,
two.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe you can get, what's the girl's name that works for him?
Oh, Casey.
Casey. Yeah. See if I can make her smile. She
Yeah.
don't normally smile a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I'll see if I can make her smile. David, you got anything you want to ask about what we're going to do next week?
No, I mean, I know he's been talking about beans, how good they looked, and I know we'll look at some corn, but I'm anxious to see where some of this cover crop is kicked in. And are we going to get a chance to look at your planter? Because if you've adopted some technologies, I want to see what technologies you've gone to, because I remember Dowdy just bragging about what you were doing before. So
where my pivot is, where the corn that we'll go look at, in that barn is actually that old 3600 Kinsey that I planted with. I planted just a few replant beans with it, but it's sitting in that barn. We can look at it, but it may not be up to date right now.
All right. Yeah. Well, we look forward to it. Man, we really appreciate you being part of Breaking Barriers with R&D, and thanks for what you're doing in DC. I know you're giving up time away from the family. You're giving up time away from looking at your farm and managing your farm, but it's important to not just the Kentucky guys. It's important to everybody that y'all are doing what you're doing. So we do appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's all been great to me.
I agree, and thank you for advocating on my behalf, and safe travels on the road. I lived in DC and worked in DC for quite a period of time, and I don't envy the traffic, you being up there involved in all of that, and the rat race. So be careful, check your six, be safe out there, and thank you again, and thanks for advocating on our behalf. Thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon for another new episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, all episodes are available on Farm Journal TV and anywhere podcasts are found.